Since we're talking about the things that you work with, I noticed that your work emphasizes on the imposter syndrome. Can you tell us what imposter syndrome is and what led you to give this particular issue importance in your work?
Well, what led me to it is because I realized I was suffering from it. When I went into business for
Mm.
myself, I was really trying to find my voice and I was struggling and I was struggling. And I began working with a coach and studying. And so imposter syndrome is this feeling of self doubt, even from very, very highly accomplished people. And I was doubting myself. I was questioning myself. And I worked with a coach. And what I realized was, wow, there's an originating incident where this all got, see, if you Google how to overcome imposter syndrome, there's
Mm-hmm.
2 point, as of 2 weeks ago, there, because I always do this before I teach a webinar on imposter syndrome, 2.44 million tips on how to overcome imposter syndrome. And none of it works because you can't manage your mind. You can't,
Yeah.
your mind's always going to think. That's your brain's job, is to keep the thing it's a brain of alive, which is you. So the work I do with my clients is we get to that moment where you put your flavor of imposter syndrome together. And when we see that, we're able to break apart that brain pattern and then begin to create how you want to show up. So we're creating new neural pathways in your
Hmm.
brain. So for me, I was 6 and I like the same boy as my best friend. And I lived in Michigan, which is like the Midwest part of the United States, very, very cold, really cold. And it was snowing and it was winter. And we were out in the playground and said, well, how are we going to know who he likes? And at 6, we decided we were going to chase him around the playground and push him down and see the brain of a 6-year-old child, right? We're going to see who he kissed. And he kissed Michelle and he looked at me and went, ew. So Michelle is this petite little blonde girl with blue eyes and blonde hair. And I'm 5'10". You can't tell sitting down, but I've always been very tall, twice the size of the kids in my school. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just be the funny sidekick. And my whole career with politics was pushing other people forward, getting agendas passed, getting people elected. So when it was my turn to put my neck out, I might have been out there speaking and training, but when I was home by myself, I was questioning, doubting, scared, under the covers, crying. And the moment I unlocked that brain pattern, it was like, wah, like went from like black and white to technicolor. I'm like, oh my God, I can see it everywhere. And then I could say how I want to show up: joyful, peaceful, and loving. And
Wow.
that's really it. And that's where and it still gets triggered because you know what? If you're not playing a big enough game, you won't have imposter syndrome. If you're playing a big game, your imposter syndrome is going to get triggered because it's threatened. Your very existence is threatened, and that's okay.
Hmm.
Play small, you don't have to worry about it. The
Yeah,
moment
when
you,
you're reactive. By play
yeah.
small, you mean when you're mostly reactive.
Well, playing small, meaning if your job is to sit on the couch and eat chocolate covered cherries, you're not going to have imposter syndrome. If you decide I'm going to open a chocolate covered cherry factory and now I got to figure out how to get the funding because there's lots out there, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I'm playing on the skinny branches. I don't know what I'm doing. Sure, imposter syndrome is going to kick in because you're stretching yourself.
Hmm.
That's where we grow. If you think about a rubber band, I don't think I have one. I usually keep one. If you think about a rubber band, if you're just looking at the rubber band, it's just kind of laying there. It's not
Yeah.
doing its job. That's like you and me. If we're just hanging out, we're not doing our job. It's meant to stretch. So are we. That's where we learn and grow. So when you stretch it, it's doing its job. The key is don't stretch it so far that it breaks.
Hmm.
So when we're stretching and growing, imposter syndrome is going to get triggered. We're in that meeting. We are asked to speak up, or
Hmm.
somebody asks our opinion, or you're a female and you walk into, and I worked in an all male dominated industries. And as a white female, it's been much easier for me. But as a female of color, you walk into a room, there's no one there that looks like you. I mean, I did some work with a Society of Women Engineers, and they were telling me they wouldn't put on makeup or get dressed up to go to work because they were asked if they had a date, who they were
Oh.
seeing, were they going on a job interview. I said, are you effing kidding me? Why can't we be feminine that way in the workplace? What? So, imposter syndrome will kick in, and it's all about getting that originating incident, noticing the
Right.
triggers, and then creating how you're going to show up. But you want a good coach like me to help you through that.